Hi guys, today this video is going to be about how to formulate recipes that kind of change here and there from time to time for those who keep a large stock of inventory in their freezers. So I feel like there's kind of two ways that people formulate. For one day, which a lot of people do regardless, even if they do have a large stock in their freezer, and they kind of formulate for one day, multiply it out for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, whatever, and then they kind of have this nice, neat shopping list, and then they go out and they get their ingredients, which I do that quite a bit. But sometimes, like in the winter time, I have just a large stock of random items, and so I need to formulate using those items, especially for like freezer cleanouts and things like that. So every month, my amounts are kind of different. And when I pull food out, so maybe I have kidney that's like, I don't know, 2 pounds, and then another day I have one that's like, or another prep I have 3 pounds, and it just kind of naturally varies. So I'm going to formulate with those varying amounts. And so this is going to be useful for somebody whose dog isn't super sensitive and they can kind of, they don't have to have like an exact amount of, they don't have to like stick really closely to macronutrients. So I'll stick to obviously roughly what my dog does best with, and then I will kind of adjust the supplements. And this whole process when I'm not filming, and I will, this whole process of formulating and pulling things out of the freezer takes less than 30 minutes. In school, I do kind of larger batches, like 21 days or 28 days. So you have to be mindful of, things like vitamin E, as far as like preserving things. But yeah, the whole process really doesn't take me long. I know that I do this a lot, so I have a lot of things memorized and I'm really familiar with what my dog needs. So there'll be some variations in that time, but I will go ahead and go through what I formulate for, starting with going through my freezer and my pantry and seeing what odds and ends I have for plant products and kind of making an inventory. If you have a running inventory, it's going to make this even quicker. One other thing I forgot to mention, I notice when I make these videos for formulating, I have a lot of things memorized, like how many grams are in a pound, um, or like how much an egg weighs in grams. So if like that type of stuff would be useful if I had it like all on one PDF that you could print out, I'll make that. But if nobody's really interested, then I'll probably skip that. And the other thing, of course, this is for adult healthy dogs, dogs that have sensitive nutrient needs. Maybe they have, they're sensitive to the amount of copper in their food or they're growing. This type of formulation wouldn't be appropriate for that situation.
Okay, so once I've gone out to the garage and I've just looked at what's in my kitchen and I kind of write everything down on a notepad, I change how many days I'm prepping for. So I'm prepping for 28 days, but keep in mind if you're new at formulating and you're not quite comfortable with how much of each thing your dog does well with per day on a daily basis, then this might be a step too far ahead. But if you've been raw feeding or feeding cooked for a while or if you're used to making these larger batches and you know what they do well with, then just switch it to however many days that you're prepping for. Um, Keep in mind the longer it's frozen, the more you have to be careful for losses and the more you have to be mindful about adding vitamin E to the batch. So the first thing I do is I change it to 28 days and then I add some of my core ingredients that I just went out and looked for. Um, and so I just add those. I copied and pasted, not to bore you guys. So I have just a lot of this. So I'm just going to start playing with the numbers here. For me, I have memorized how many grams are in an ounce, how many ounces are in a pound, how many grams are in a pound. So I can do this kind of quickly. I'm just going to start with 7 pounds. So 7 pounds times 453.6 grams is 3175.2. My liver comes in packages of 1 pound and 2 pounds. So I kind of will do 1 pound 1 month, 2 pounds the next month so that I'm not doing an excessive amount of copper. So I'll do 2 pounds this month. My beef heart I have right now, I have a package and I think it's 3.2 pounds, 453.6. And my beef kidney is about packaged at 2.1 pounds. I have a very big bag of chicken breast at 10 pounds, which is why I didn't do a lot of ground elk. Yeah, I realized that I didn't need to use a calculator for that, but when I record a video, my brain works even less well, which is shocking. Um, then at the end, I'm going to leave space because I know I'm going to have to mix in some supplements, but I'm going to think about the things that I add daily. So, like raw meaty bones. So, we're going to do chicken wing this month, and you can add different kinds. But I just have a lot of chicken wing frozen. Chicken egg. I have some canned sardines as well. So, my dog's a little bit older, so I don't do as much bone, and I add a little bit of bone broth to his carbohydrate source. So I'm going to do 2 ounces a day, which is 56.7 grams. And I'm doing it for 28 days, so I times that by 28, 1587.6. My dog does well with 1 to 2 eggs. You can even go up to 3 eggs because he's pretty tolerant. One medium egg is about 44 grams. See, a lot of this stuff I just have memorized. So 44 times or let's do 88, so 2 eggs a day. Oh, 88 times 28, 2464. And canned sardines, we'll try 1 ounce per day. And it doesn't mean that I'm mixing these all into the batch. I'm just using these for nutrient data information. So the next thing I did was I kind of looked at the different plant sources I had left over. So I kind of had some odds and ends frozen from other batches I made where I made a little bit too much. So these are going to be kind of in weird amounts. So I have 400 grams of pineapple left over. And for some of these, if you want to check how much that would be on a daily basis, at least for me, I normally formulate on a daily basis and then I multiply it out. That's what I do for just about every client, unless I formulated for them quite a bit. But 400 divided by 28, just to give me some perspective, it's about half an ounce a day. So, definitely within a limit that's tolerable. Spinach, I have about a pound of, and that's 16 grams a day. That's definitely more than tolerable. My dog is about 63 to 65 pounds. I have 10 ounces of frozen blueberries left over. And, or rather, seven. 198.45. And then I have 10 ounces of sweet potato. And then oatmeal is like something that I keep in bulk. So I'm going to say we'll try 5 ounces a day. I just happen to have it memorized, but you could do 28.35 times 5. So that's for one day. I times that by 28, 3969. So I've just thrown a lot of numbers in. So I need to scroll down and kind of see where I'm at. So obviously I'm going to have to supplement for zinc. You can see why I kind of reduce and increase liver month to month. I always supplement manganese also just because he's a little bit older and is prone to joint issues, but they're not severe anymore. Because I don't use pork products personally, and because I don't really do a lot of duck, and not wild duck, my thiamin's typically pretty low, and I have a standard process supplement that I use, but it's just not in. I haven't added it yet to my sheet, so I would add that, but I won't bore you with entering in all of the numbers. Obviously, I need to supplement some kelp, and because I'm keeping the I really don't want the phosphorus to go above this. I'm gonna have to supplement some calcium from non-bone sources, and magnesium. I want to take a look at, and these are vitamin E and vitamin D. I'm going to do those last. So I'm also going to look at where my macros are at this point. Yeah, it's not a bad macro distribution by any means. It's pretty typical of what he would eat. He tends to eat lower carb, and pretty equal distribution from fat and protein. This is a little bit lower fiber than I would typically like, so maybe I'll prep this now. I don't really want to go to the store today, and then I'll pick up some pumpkin or another squash, and I'll add that fresh and just kind of rotate out some extra fiber sources every day. So I'll just keep an eye on stools. So then I'm going to add my calcium. So because I have calcium and magnesium short, for dogs, I really like to use the Animal Essentials seaweed calcium because I can get the calcium and the magnesium and do a little bit of an iodine boost, but I have a lot of calcium carbonate right now, so I'm going to use that up. And so I will have to use up my other magnesium source. I don't want to do too much of this because I found that the Animal Essentials seaweed calcium, that doesn't typically affect stools with the magnesium in it, but a lot of magnesium supplements will affect stools. I've never had an issue with my dog personally, though. So let's see. The magnesium's at 104. Let's try 22. So just, I want some perspective on this. I'm going to do 22 divided by 28. That's 0.78 capsules or tablets a day, and I'm okay with that. So that's less than one a day. And of course, zinc. Now I could add oysters, but I don't want to increase my my copper anymore. There it is. So I basically just throw in a number and see what it, what it comes out as, and then I adjust it. So that's about one daily. Yeah, I know that my zinc and copper ratio isn't perfect, but I don't have a sensitive dog. I know next month it's going to be adjusted again. And zinc also has a buffer on it as well, as far as like the nutrient requirements go. And I also know that I'm feeding above the recommended allowance for both zinc and copper. So if there's losses of one or the other, it's really not a big deal. These ratios become more important when you're sticking right at the recommended allowance. And that's true of not just zinc and copper. So I'm going to try one daily and see what that does as far as the powder goes. A lot of people have different preferences on where their iodine is. Most people like it right below the recommended allowance. Some people like it right at the recommended allowance. Because I don't have data about iodine that's in meat sources, the number can be pretty highly variable. And it's important to keep in mind that dogs adjust to a range of iodine intake. So I could keep going up with this, but because of the way that those tablets, or there's capsules, no, they're tablets. I don't know if I want to put everything into the mineral mix. And I need to scoot it over one more for the manganese. So right now, I'm for my dogs who's not very sensitive, I'm pretty okay with this. This iron's sitting right at 100%, but keep in mind that I am discounting all iron from plant sources. So this is all really highly bioavailable iron, and it's also going to be in the presence of other foods that are going to increase its absorption. I need to provide that thiamine I talked about earlier, and then now we need to address the vitamin E and vitamin D, which are things that are going to be added fresh, and the omega-3. So with that combination, I'm going to go for the fermented cod liver oil that has vitamin A and vitamin D in it, so that's something to keep in mind. Just based off of how much I know I feed my dog, I'm going to start with 1/3 of a teaspoon a day, times that by 28 days. That's 9.24 teaspoons. So yeah, I like that fatty acid profile quite a bit. My vitamin A is still at an okay level, and that definitely bumped up my vitamin D. And finally, Vitamin E, I'll do 1 daily, which is 28 days. And with this sheet accounting for the polyunsaturated fatty acids, this is also sitting at a good level. So I just have a couple things to address here that aren't a big deal. And I'll go down here and see where we're sitting at. Yeah, so that's basically how I go through with my odds and ends type meals. I start from a larger number and then I work backwards. Now, you could set this to 1 day and do the opposite if you really like seeing things on a daily basis. So for example, if you did have 10 pounds or no, 7 pounds of the elk, and then I could divide that by 28, and that's 4 ounces a day. So totally doable number. And then I would enter in 113 grams. I know that your sheet might look a little bit different. I have some different changes that Jenny made for me just for professional use. So then my batch report is going to look different than yours because of, again, Jenny made some changes for me. So it's not for 1 day, it's for 28 days. But I just have these little things that I change for clients. And now I have my batch report. It tells me how much I have on a daily basis, but this is really easy to follow. I'm going to go ahead and follow this and make my so I'm going to be food prepping today, and then these are all fed fresh daily. So I have my 2.5 ounces daily. I filled these in manually, so I'll have to check if I did 2.5 or 2 ounces daily. 2 eggs daily, 1 ounce daily, which I'll probably balance that over time. So yeah, I would have to manually adjust these. I click this arrow and a lot of stuff comes up on the right, and I type in my daily amounts just in a format that I prefer.